Hey guys, BJ and Game Day back again. You got Joshy, you got Brent, back for another round of NRL SuperCoach here online with us. There you go. Look at that! Look at that sponsor in the background, mate. Canberra Milk. After the Chili's last week, mate, you did well. You did well. I thought you handled it very professionally, mate, like any good broadcaster would, mate. How'd you go last week, buddy?
Yeah, good mate. Good to be here. Look, 1,200 again this week. I think it was 1,250, 1,260 in the end. So it was a good week. I think par ended up being probably around that 1,200 mark this week. It was a pretty big week from big scores. But yeah, happy to go back-to-back 1,200s and jump myself into the top 5K overall. So getting there after a couple slow rounds, mate. But still plenty to go just yet. What about yourself?
Yeah, mate, not too bad. 1,230, so nice to get over that 1,200 for the first time this season. Still plenty of things I can work on. I've noticed a couple of weaknesses in my team. But yeah, mate, look, obviously pretty competitive league, the BJ and GameDay League, mate. You happy to score 1,260, mate, and only one bloke in the league scored higher than you, and that was in the head-to-head as well. So a bit devastated on your behalf, mate.
Yeah, mate. Well, shout out to our old mate Wayno, Hill's granny. He's took out the league last year and overall, and he's bounced back. He's now back in the hunt. It was probably a match for the ages in the head-to-head. I think I had him. I was up by about 350 odd going into that last game, the Para Tigers game, and he had maybe five, or I think he had about 5 players to come. He had Gutherson, he had Marnie, he had Madison and Masters, and ended up being a terrible SuperCoach game for me because it was a massive score and he ended up getting that. And I think pre-updates I had him by about 15 or so, and then post-updates he jumped me by 7. So the only one that topped me this week in the league, and of course I played him. But well done Wayno, and just reiterates why I don't like head-to-head games. Bloody things.
Mate, I've got to apologise to any of our viewers. I think last week I mentioned that I thought Para would get done by the Tigers based on the Tigers' defence. I don't think I could have been any more wrong. They were terrible. The Tigers they just had nothing.
Yeah, and Para were, in contrast, really good out at that new Bankwest Stadium. There, yeah. It looks pretty good. It looks like a pretty good venue. One I'll be pretty keen to go and have a look at this year if possible. It looked pretty nice. Not something we're really used to, that sort of setup. But Para stamped their foot on that home. Their first game there, mate.
And mate, no Weet-Bix for either of us this week. None of us could quite get the crystal ball prediction. What did we pick? I think it'll come up on the screen. Here's mine. SR Masters. Well, he got nowhere near it. As we just said with the Tigers, they went down clearly to the Eels, and he never quite got to that 100 points. Lachlan Fitzgibbon had another shocker. Look, I'm glad I never owned him. I had him in my side a couple of times before the start of the season, and really glad I avoided him because he's been an absolute nightmare for owners. Mate, look, I was buzzing for this come Sunday. I was buzzing. I thought I had it. The Tri-Fest, 10-plus tries in a game. Unfortunately, the Raiders and Broncos could only produce 9. So I was 1 try away from seeing you eat the whole dry Weet-Bix, mate. But yourself, mate, same thing, none from 3?
Yeah, look, I think closest I would have got was with KP. He's cracked the 80 again in a team that was absolutely disgusting. My boys against the Titans are in all sorts at the moment. But yeah, KP was probably a shining light for us. Obviously didn't get anywhere near it with Fitzy, obviously proving that he's not one of those base back rowers. He's relying totally on those attacking stats, and if he's not getting those, he's pretty much only going to score you 40 points as he has been. So, and that bullshit one, as we're referring to it here on the screen, Milford not even close. I think he is now actually about worth 380 odd K and absolutely stinking it up. It's quite unbelievable. If you cast your mind back a couple of years ago, he was probably one of the top halves for SuperCoach you could have. So it's actually mind-boggling what's going on there at Brisbane at the moment. And to be honest, probably a good thing. Take a bit of pressure off Nathan Brown and my boys.
it's probably one that actually reflects in, true NRL then, in actual reality. And going from SuperCoach, we all love our SuperCoach players and the blokes who are scoring big, but since Anthony Milford's gone backwards in SuperCoach, it's sort of been the same at NRL level as well. The Broncos are just not looking good. Mate, what do you reckon's the story here? How do they fix this? What's the solution for Milford?
Look, I just think at the moment I think it's been like this for a while now. They just don't have that proper game manager in the halves. Milford, I don't think you want him having to be playing that game manager style where he has to, steer him around the park and take most of those kicks on last and, play that structure. You want him to be able to play pretty ad-lib. I think that's his strength. And at the moment, they've got a couple halves in there where that's both their strengths and neither of them are natural, game managers. And it's just not working at the moment. I think that's it. I think on paper they got as good a squad as any in the NRL, obviously. And, I sort of think there's a young guy there we saw on a trial, Sean O'Sullivan, that looked pretty good. They bought from the Roosters in the off-season. I know I've heard Seapold say they've had, they're putting a lot of faith in guys like Fafita, Felger, those young guys to produce for them in the middle there. There's another one I've sort of can't remember now, probably TPJ as well. But why not put a half in there? It's obviously not working.
If these guys, and I think game consistency-wise that the forwards haven't shown up, but when they do, the Broncos still aren't performing in the halves. And I don't think it's Nikorima. I think it's Milford. I think the Broncos look more dangerous when Nikorima's actually running the plays rather than Milford. He looks completely lost.
Well, I mean, I think he started his career at Canberra at fullback, and to be honest, I think he's one of those guys like KP. He's more dangerous at fullback. I know he's been at 6 for a while, and he had a good year there a couple of years ago, but is it time for him? Darius Boyd's been probably, his efforts in defence have been up there with the worst you'll ever see from a fullback for a guy of his stature. Is this sort of his last year potentially? I don't know. Maybe. Yeah, I think maybe they need to change something up, throw him at fullback. Boyd, I don't know what they do with him, but it's going to be interesting. They're not a club that's really used to this sort of failure, I guess. They're a club that's built on success, and if they lose any more, and they're in a bit of strife, and they take on Cronulla this weekend as well, so it should be a really interesting one there.
I hope they stop any kind of form reversal until after this week, because my boys Saturday night, I'm going to head in and watch the game, and hopefully my lads can get them and have a good win. Mate, last week's results, as you can see here, guys, just a quick run through on the screen. Hang on, I'm trying to read this.
I don't know how Cronulla have won that game. They had no right to win that on the Thursday night up against Penrith. Penrith all over them, mate, majority of that game. And they've stormed home in the last, 20 minutes or so to steal that one like a thief in the night.
Mate, absolutely cracker of a game. I don't know what the goes with the Penrith Panthers either. They obviously have such a reputation of being second half finishers, and they got away to a big lead. You thought they would have been home, and we actually discussed it at half time. I didn't think Cronulla had enough points in them, and I thought Penrith would have another try or two up their sleeve. So, pretty happy, obviously, as a Sharks fan to get that win. It was one probably we'll look back at the end of the season and say, look, we were lucky to get that one, and obviously wherever we finish at the end of the season on the ladder, we'll be better because of that.
Bronson Jerry,
Friday night.
Bronson Jerry, quick thoughts.
Bronson Jerry, wow, I don't own him, and I'm spewing. I am spewing. Last week I decided to bring in Kalen Ponga instead of him, which again isn't a bad mood. Kalen Ponga had a good week and jumped up in price by about 50k, so he would have been harder to get. I think the biggest thing that we're seeing with Bronson Jerry is the fact that they dropped Sione Katoa. So to put Josh Dugan to the wing, William Kennedy to fullback, he got the debut, and he had a cracker on debut actually. But that just makes it easy for when Moylan comes back. Moylan just slots straight back into fullback. Kennedy drops back to New South Wales Cup. And Jerry actually retains his spot in the in the right-hand centre. So, look, I'm going to miss him again this week, and I'm going to miss another big price rise, I'm sure. Whether I can get him in after that, I'm not too sure. Look, Cronulla don't play round 12 with the first bye round, so I might just have to miss him altogether. But, mate, cracking player, and really excited to see what else he can produce.
Can run.
Definitely. Mate, Friday afternoon, we saw the Good Friday match. The Rabbitohs against the Bulldogs. Rabbitohs winning 14-6. This was an absolute shit game. Really wasn't worth watching. But, yeah, some half-decent scores. Obviously, Cam Murray went all right again. A couple of the other sort of normal players. But I think this one just better in the back of the mind, mate, to forget.
Yeah, SuperCoach-wise, no points in that second half. I think Cody Walker set up the first with a really good cutout ball to Campbell Graham. I thought this bloke's going to haunt me forever if the 150 didn't last week, but he stayed pretty quiet after that. Did outscore Teddy this week as well, which has stung me a little bit. He's now hit over 700k with a pretty low break even, but yeah, it was disappointing, that one. Even Akumba had him in my side, was not too involved. Martin obviously dropped to the bench for that one, so interesting to see what happens there. But yeah, happy to move on from that one, mate, into what was probably game of the round, you'd have to say, with the Storm taking on the Chooks.
Oh, mate, look, obviously 20 minutes in, once the Roosters hit that big early lead, I think they were up 20-0. You know, it wasn't too far into the game when it was 20-0, and this was an absolute cracker. An absolute masterclass from Cameron Smith. He brought their team right back into it. Obviously, still went down to Latrell Mitchell's amazing field goal from 45 metres out. But really great game to watch this one, and definitely the two premier teams in the comp. I think everyone else at the moment is chasing these two teams. They're well coached, well drilled. The Roosters obviously having a little bit of trouble with Cronk out, and now Keary's out. Latrell Mitchell making his way to sort of 5'8". So hopefully once they can find that consistency with their team, a lot of their fans will be thinking they'll go back to back.
Mate, Latrell Mitchell, he's a guy that's probably, lacked a bit of form the opening month of the competition, but the last 2 weeks he's shown why he's, last year he was probably the best centre in the world. I think he got named in the world 13 or whatever it was. How good was he?
Mate, he is huge. Look, this guy, obviously with GI retiring and the talk around him being the replacement and things like that, look, it's not far off. He is fantastic. He's a big boy. He's fast. He's arrogant, what you love to see in a good sportsman. And look, the way he just kicked that field goal, he knew it was going straight over. That's the kind of things you want to see from your game winners. They demand the ball when it's on the line, and he did that. So from a SuperCoach point of view, if he does play 5'8" this week, I'm not too sure what will happen. I said it a few weeks ago when he did. I saw glimpses that he could actually make it work at 5'8". So I'm hoping he'll stay quiet because next week he's a buy-in for me.
Yeah, mate. Was it what next up? We had Warriors and Cowboys on the Saturday. It was about the 5:30 game on the Saturday. I didn't actually catch all this one, but I did tip the Warriors, and Warriors proving, as always, a perennial inconsistent performers. Mate, you cannot pick them. May as well just not tip them because you're probably going to get it right more often than not. Sheck was obviously massive. He's been, since Johnson's left, he has stepped up, and he's been absolutely unbelievable. I didn't think he could get any better, but he's actually gotten even better. He's definitely a shining light in that side. And Lachlan Burr, mate, I think he's a bit of a shining light in that forward pack as well. Surprisingly, came from the Titans last year. And in SuperCoach, he's actually looking like a guy that you might have to start playing as making that 17.
Mate, played some good minutes, Burr, last week. And, yeah, really showed in attack. He's got plenty. Defence, he's solid. Yeah, definitely. He's looking like a keeper. Even in base stats, he's scoring around that sort of mid-40s. So, add the occasional attacking stat in there as well. He's only playing around that sort of 45 to 50 minutes. I think last week he might have played close to 60. Whether that's something he can develop throughout the season. There was a bit of a story on Facebook and social media about how bad a buy Adam Blair's been over the past couple of seasons. And I think the more he starts to stink it up, the more opportunity Lachlan Burr will get. Mate, I think the biggest tragedy about the Warriors is the fact that they've got RTS. How a guy who is that exciting and that good a footballer can be in such a shit team, that guy deserves to win a premiership.
Yeah, mate, and the Cowboys, I think Michael Morgan's really doing most of whatever's going well for them. Obviously, Lolo's still out, but it's all going through Morgan. And I didn't catch this game, but watched a few of the highlights, and if anything's going on, it's Michael Morgan's.
Yeah, definitely
doing.
Saturday night, mate. The Dragons touch lucky actually to get over the Seagulls. The Seagulls were a little bit unlucky. Again, probably not one of the most fantastic games of the weekend. SuperCoach points were a little bit hard to come by. I know one of my mates at work captained Corey Norman for 19 points, so he was definitely hurting by that. He thought he sort of found that little pod captain now that Corey Norman had hit form, and it all came crashing down. But, mate, I'm sure the Seagulls would just love to get Turbo back because they don't look half bad.
No, they just lack that bit of venom out wide, don't they? Cherry Evans is stepping up as well as much as RTS is, so is DCE. He scored 90-odd points again this week. He's been a great buy if you started the season with him. I think everyone expected the Dragons to roll the Eagles after what the Dragons did against the Dogs last week. It didn't happen. Traded out Garrick last week, which ended up being a genius move. He scored 10 points or something this week, and Ravalawa was lucky to score that try at the end. Otherwise, he was getting a similar score as well, mate. So, similar to that probably Bulldogs-Rabbits game, that one. Forget about it and move on. But I probably don't want to remember what happened on Sunday, to be honest.
Mate, I'll just run it through for our viewers so you don't have to cry. Look, a lot of similarities here with the Titans and Knights game with the Eels and the West Tigers. Momentum. It's an absolutely huge thing in rugby league, and both of these games had it. The Knights couldn't do a thing right, and the Titans capitalised on absolutely every mistake that they made. I was actually walking around a golf course playing a little bit of golf with the kids as this game was going on and watching on my phone on KO Sports. And, mate, every time the Titans scored, I just wondered what the heck was going on. The fact that for SuperCoaches, Kalen Ponga still scored 83 points was an absolute godsend because I think both you and I captained him this week, mate. And
I think it was
just counting our lucky stars.
One of the top captain choices, which always spooks me a bit. When you hear everyone's captaining someone, it's so obvious that it seems so obvious that it almost puts you off. And if he didn't score that try at the end, I know he got a couple of line breaks before that, but it would have been pretty dire. Yeah, my boy is absolutely woeful. I think the defensive effort's just been, it's the defence that's the issue. Attack, we don't look too bad. Games we lost this year hadn't been by too much, but we were losing. But this one, very interesting game this week up against the red hot Parramatta. But we'll worry about that one on Sunday too, I think.
Mate, Raiders and Broncos was an absolute cracker of a game. Look, the Raiders, you got to think they're the real deal this season. They've got plenty of strike power across the park. Jack Whiten at 5'8" has been brilliant. Sammy Williams, since he came on for the injured Aiden Caesar, has retained his spot, and he's been brilliant controlling the play around obviously a lot more X factor that team's got. And the English forward pack, Johnny Bateman, Ryan Sutton, Josh Hodgson, Elliot Whitehead have all been massive. Mate, what do you think of the Raiders?
Yeah, I actually went out to this game on Sunday, mate. It was actually a cracker. They had about 17,000 out there at Canberra Stadium, which is a pretty good crowd out there. And, it was a great game, great finish. Brisbane actually had a chance in the last couple of minutes to, shoot for an equaliser, but they didn't get it. But, yeah, Canberra, I think, as you said, you nailed it. I think they're a side, they've always been a side where if they're playing confident footy, they're always hard to beat. But I think, there's a team there now. Ricky's been with them for a few years. They've got a nucleus of guys there that have our experienced first graders now, and I don't think the belief is an issue. There's no lack of confidence in that side when you look across it. Guys like Leilua and Rapana and even Papali and Whiten, they've been there, done it now. Croker, and these English boys have just complemented that. Hodgson, Elliot, Whitehead, and Bateman's he's arguably going to be by the year the way he's going. Guy's an absolute weapon. Turned up on the weekend as well. I think they're going to be a dangerous team, and as they keep winning, I think they could be a team this year that on their day they're going to cause a lot of problems. It'll be interesting to see. I think they play the Roosters in a couple of weeks, and we'll really find out where they're at there. They played Melbourne in round 2, but I think it's still early days. But yeah, Nickel Clockstad at the back is looking awesome. Good signs for Canberra, mate. Really good signs.
Definitely. And we've already talked about the Eels and West Tigers a little bit, so we'll move on from that. A little bit of a new segment after this one, guys. We're going to go with the topic 8. Hang on. No, we're not. We're going fixtures for next week. Yeah, we'll kick on quickly through this. Obviously, a couple of good matchups there. I'm looking forward to seeing the Sea Eagles and the Raiders. Now, this respective game last season produced Tommy Trebojevich's big 180-odd, 190-odd. He's not there this year, or this week. But I think we might even see a similar scoreline in the Raiders. Mate, I reckon a Joey Leilua or Rapana's due for a big ton-up. Joey showed some good form last week.
Yeah, mate, absolutely. Again, I think it's just a confidence thing. When these are the kind of players, I think it's like any player when they're confident they're playing better. But those guys, especially BJ, the only problem with him is when he does get confident, he does start to do some of those crazy things that he does, like scoot from dummy half on last and kick for Rapana. But you get that, you take the good with the bad. But yeah, the Raiders building something special. I think if they're going to establish themselves as a top side in the competition this year, they should be expected to put the sword to the Eagles this weekend.
No, definitely.
And I'm expecting my boys to put up a bit more of a fight against Parramatta this week. I think I have no idea what's going on in Newcastle. Maybe I need to get invited to these parties that are rumoured to be going on or whatever the hell they're talking about. But it should be a good round of footy. Obviously, Anzac Day this Thursday, and we'll see the Chooks take on the Dragons and the Storm Warriors. So always nice to get a bit of early footy and on our Anzacs, mate.
Mate, definitely should be a big day on Thursday. Always looking forward to that. And obviously the Storm and Warriors has become a bit of a traditional match on that day as well, celebrating the two countries.
I think the big game will be the big game as well will be Brisbane and your Blokes. I think Brisbane under the pump, mate. That's going to be an interesting one as well.
Mate, I think they could surprise. Obviously, Britton Okora, the big news, he's out for the week. So in around about sort of 70 to 80% of SuperCoach teams, we won't have him this week. 1 week suspended after that dangerous throw on Viliami Kikau last week. How you can throw Viliami Kikau's got me beat, but he did well. So look, I think the Broncos will come out fire, and I think they showed better signs against the Raiders last week. And obviously they've got plenty of a point to prove as they're only 1 win and I think 4 or 5 losses now. So, plenty of improvement there for the Broncos to be had. So next segment, Are we going that order? Okay. Casualty ward. I've got no idea who got injured this week, mate. We saw Ryan James did the ACL.
Yeah, mate, Ryan James obviously went out early, which was a big loss to the Titans, although it didn't matter in the end because my boys probably could have played against a team of 10 Titans and they still would have done us. Obviously, Kiri's a big one, mate. He hasn't been named back up for the Chooks. So was it HIA that he got done with and he's now seen? I don't know if that was why he's actually out this week, though. But he's not there.
Yeah, I'm not too sure. We saw, obviously, Robbie Farah went down with the HIA last week as well. A couple other players too, that Daniel Alvaro. Alvarez didn't look like there was much in it. First hit up of the game and he was out. So they're both named to be back this week. But again, they've just got to follow, I guess, pass all the protocol that's there for the HIA. And they'll be able to kick on next week. But
rumours of
a big one there.
Yeah, rumours that RTS and Charles Clockstad are in doubt this week as well, so keep your eye on team lists for those ones. Apparently, RTS has got a hamstring niggle, so depending on what you believe.
Steve Kearney's come out today on Twitter or whatever it was, and he said that he's no drama, he's good to go. But there's always some truth to those rumours when they do come out. mate, CNK, that hyperextension that he had was massive. Obviously, the hyperextension usually doesn't develop into any ongoing problems, but short-term wise, he'll be in plenty of pain for the next few days.
Poor man's RTS, I'm calling
Sorry, gents, you didn't mention it. I'm live at the moment. But I was reading this afternoon also that Lolo is he's been named in the 20 for the Cowboys, and he's pushing to be fit for this week.
Yes, absolutely.
If that happens, I'll be absolutely dumbfounded. If 5 weeks for an MCL, I think it's only ever been done once before. Semi Burgess back in 2012. So look, obviously that'll be great for Cowboys fans, and super coaches will have to find a way to get him back in, because I don't think it'll be too long before he starts to find form again.
I think if he's back in the next couple of weeks, and he's, Cowboys will play around 12. He's got 100 break even at the moment. It's going to be real interesting if he's back in 2 or 3 weeks. Don't think him playing this week though.
How's the score in Rugby League Live? 32-6. I'm getting smashed. Leading into the trades this week, mate.
Change places! Change places!
So, recap on last week, mate. I actually stuck to these. I think after the Walker fiasco of, the week before, and then even Bateman the week before that, which ended up probably costing me about over 200 points. Oh, maybe not that much, but I'm sticking with whatever the hell I say, I think. Glad I ended up going Garrick DeJerry. I was a bit concerned about the Jerry one. Ended up playing him. That went well, and got rid of that.
Did you play Jerry?
I did. I was umming and ahhing. I just thought he was busy. I didn't realise how quick he was. And it's one of my favourite attributes, speed, mate. When I saw him go down that sideline, like I said, it's exciting to see. I don't know.
Is that because you've never had it, mate?
Oh, absolutely, mate. This frame wasn't made for running fast, I can tell you that much. So, on the Oztag field, I have been known to, play a nice show and go, but I don't make it too far. I'm looking for support pretty quickly. So I went Garrick to Jerry. That's obviously worked out pretty well now. It could have been a dodgy one. With Garrick obviously playing 12, you got to start thinking about buys. But I thought, what's the point if he only makes, 30 points that week? And it now looks like he could start to leak a bit of cash. So that's ended up working out pretty good for me. And CHT was the must-have of last week, and Simonson was able to get him out for Jules. So got everyone earning money for me and moving. So
I do want to say about CHT, I actually watched a fair bit of that Warriors and Cowboys game on the weekend. I was pretty disappointed in this guy. Now, obviously, that's a bit harsh to say as a young halfback. Consistency is one thing that they find over time. There was a few chances. He's very much just a catch and pass kind of halfback. I didn't see him take any opportunities. So, look, obviously, if the Warriors are scoring big, he'll follow that form and he'll follow that sort of momentum that the team does. But in a game like they saw on the weekend, I thought he was lucky to score 40, 44 points or whatever it was. So I think it won't be too long until he actually tops out. He might get to around 350K, but he'll be one that I'm looking to actually offload now that he doesn't play around 12 with the Warriors having the bye. And as you can see there, last week I brought him in. Adam Kieran, that was the one trade I did go with. I went Adam Kieran to CHT. The other one there on the right didn't happen. Again, I did the old Joshy and switcheroo, and I went Kalen Ponga in. I can't remember who I took out, to tell you the truth.
Bowen, wasn't it?
Javid Bowen. Yeah, that was a bit of a nightmare for me with him. I've always sort of hoped he'd start to hit form and maybe spring up as a pod, but very, very, very average from him. So brought in Ponga. Captained him straight away. Went away from the set to get captain at Teddy, and that actually got me an extra 30 points for the week. So pretty happy with that.
Mate, interesting one on Kieran. I think even with Green out, he didn't get a go. They pushed Shiku to 6. So don't know what's going on there, considering they started the year with him. But anyway.
Yeah, mate, obviously they've lost a little bit of faith in him, or, maybe it could be that just didn't want to sort of have two rookie halves in there at once. As much as Peter Hiku's not, I guess, a genuine halfback, he's got plenty of big game or, plenty of NRL experience, so maybe just that level head around the young fella.
Yeah, anyway, we'll see what happens there. Trades this week, mate. I think Haas must have. I think, his minutes are going to be affected. He's played some big minutes the last couple of weeks, but Lodge and TPG back. I'm not expecting him to play as many minutes as he is, but I think he's the must-have cheapie this week if you're looking for a cheapie, and Host is on the decline. I think he might start leaking cash. He's now not got that starting spot. And, I've got him up in the front row so I can make that trade pretty easily. The other one I'm tinkering with is I think Ravalaara. Just thinking about buys now a little bit. Obviously, you can see BJ Leilua there and Latrell Mitchell. Most people might look at this as chasing last week's points, but believe it or not, I've been looking at both of these guys for the last couple of weeks, which shits me to tears because they've both gone pretty good in the last couple of weeks, and they're now about 50 to 100k cheaper than what they were. BJ was only 470k last week, which would have been, another quietish week, and he would have been a real sneaky pickup. But he's now not going to be sneaky at all. Obviously, what he did on the weekend, everyone saw that. But always a big fan. Plays round 12, and I think Latrell Mitchell being shifted to 6. I just can't do it, and he obviously won't be playing round 12 and will play Origin anyway. So leaning towards BJ on this one. And I think Ravalaara, whilst he's been good and there's every chance he'll keep scoring tries and that sort of thing, he still isn't as busy as I'd like him to be. On the weekend, as I said, I think he got lucky with a try there to get his score over what he did. Break even around 30-odd. I think it's just one of those ones now. I'm trying to refine the squad, start to get ready for 12 a little bit. And he'll be the one that has to part ways for me to get one of these premium centres in.
Mate, he's scored 4 tries, 4 games in a row, 4 tries. He's not a good enough winger to score anymore, so I think it's probably the perfect time to move on for him. I think he's peaked, and there's other guys to make money out of at the moment that are going to make it quicker than he is. So my trades for this week, mate, look, obviously Payne Haas coming in for me as well. This is a little bit of a tough one for me because I actually want to get rid of Jacob Host, but I don't have a dual front row forward that I can switch around because I've actually got Host on the bench in the second row. So I'm going to actually have to get rid of Tavita Totola, who's been pretty good for the Bunnies. His break-even's around that sort of 40 mark this week. So has shown glimpses of being better than that. But for now, I've made 120k out of him. So I think it's time to bring in Payne Haas. Mate, look, similar to you, I don't think he's going to get the minutes that he saw last week. He played the full 80 last week with the return of Lodge and TPJ. But what I do like about this guy, because of his size and dynamic ability, that lesser minutes, a lot like we talk about with Kickout, playing 50 to 55 just might make him that more effective in attack rather than needing those defensive stats to make up the numbers.
He make you 17 this week?
What's that?
Does Haas make you 17 this week?
Probably not, no.
Right.
No. It'll depend. I'll have to have a look at it. I think from a Cronulla point of view, I think our weakness is probably... I think it's probably around the edges a bit more than up the middle. So I think the opportunities might not come his way so much up the middle. If they bring him on and play him on an edge, I think he'll be a chance to score some massive points, and then it'll be a little bit too late, obviously, to consider bringing him in. But no, not in my 17. Just looking for the cash grab there. The other one I've got is Jordan Pereira out now. First price drop for him last week. He dropped about 25k. His break even was 60 odd, and he scored 32. So I do think that's about him for the season. I've made 100k out of him. And I'm going a little bit one out of left field here. I was actually thinking about Latrell and blokes like that, but I'm going to get this guy while he's cheap. Wanga Blake now has not set the world on fire at all. But one thing that started to click last week was the switch of James Maloney and Nathan Cleary. Nathan Cleary went back to the right side, and James Maloney went back to the left, which he's been so successful on all his career. They did switch them at the start of the season, and it just hasn't worked out for the Penrith Panthers. Now, they were better against Cronulla. Attack-wise, they were better, and Wanga Blake did score a try and 64 points. So I'm hoping that trends up for him, gives him a little bit of confidence, and at 380K, I think he is an absolutely massive buy. Last year, he ended the game as one of the form centre wingers in the comp. So if you can find any of that form again, that'd be fantastic. And even if not, if you can make 100 or 120K and somehow get back to that sort of 50 average, I'll be happy with that.
And he's a massive pod, mate, obviously. Obviously, no form. He's only owned by 2% of teams. But, yeah, has the ability to blow up well if he gets it right. So, yeah, I like it. I don't reckon you'll do this, though. I reckon this will be reversed.
It's done, mate. It's done. Lock it in, 10. Eddie. Lock it in, Eddie.
He might stick to it this week.
Oh, look at that photo down the bottom.
How much cash you banking, mate, before we move on to the Fortune Teller? There's some cash bank there. You must be rolling in it.
I've got about 470K in the bank after those.
What, the toll is what, mid 300?
Yeah.
So I think I had cash. 200. You're banking a bit on Pereira and JP.
And I'm banking about 80 on Pereira. So yeah, around 450, 470, somewhere around there. So pretty happy with that. What about yourself, mate?
I think with the upgrade of Ravalawa, it leaves me with just over 100. So Ravalawa to BJ cost me a little bit, which is a bit of a pain, but it's going to be interesting because you're going to need a bit of cash to get, I think, Martin, Tamalolo in the next few weeks, potentially, depending on what happens. Definitely Lolo. But I think Burr's going to be the guy that has to go because I just plain simply can't trade anyone else there. So I might not need as much as I would thought, but I don't have as much as you do, money bags. Scrooge McDuck.
There you go. Fortune Teller. Mate, I didn't do one this week, so what have we got to show for this?
We're freewheeling. So freewheeling live. Yeah, it tells us what's happening. I can go first if you want.
Go for it, mate. I'll do a little bit of research.
I guess I'm not going to make any fans of these ones. I've gone ton up. I've gone BJ. I think, again, not chasing last week's points, but it's been all about BJ. I'm picking him up this week. Get on the BJ train. BJ on game day. Everything's BJ. Just why wouldn't you know? Everyone loves a good BJ. I'm taking on Manly. I've always been dubious of their edges, and I definitely don't think that's going to change this week. And Canberra absolutely flying. So I'm on BJ for the ton. He went close last week, but yeah, I'm hoping he does it this week. The redemption arc's I think it's a bit of a stitch up. I've gone Farah. He actually only didn't get more than 40 because he got HIA, and I think they're playing the Titans. But I've gone Robbie Farah. And the wild and wacky, because I'm getting stitched up with bloody everything I call in this bloody wild and wacky segment. I've gone. Originally, I said to the Bogan, I said I'm going every game of this round will be decided by 6 points or less, except for the Canberra game.
Who Canberra playing?
Manly.
Yeah, I'll accept that.
So every game, I'm not telling you who's winning it, but I'm going every game to be decided by 6 points or less. That could be blown out of the water with Chooks Dragons on Anzac Day and potentially Melbourne Warriors straight after it. But wild and wacky, that's what I'm doing.
Mate, fair enough. All right, I'm just looking here. I tell you what, I'm going to go. It's a little bit of a weird one. For a ton up, I'm going to go Joshy Papali. Bit of a let out. I reckon he might even score a double. I think he needs to score a double to ton up. I'm going to go Joshy Papali up against the Manly pack. I reckon he can dominate them, and he's been in good form. And I saw his paycheck there the other day. He's on a little bit of coin, so he's going all right. I'm not in finance, people. And I'm going to go for the redemption arc. Hang on. Here we go.
That's a bit harder on the spot because you're going to know who's less than 40.
Yeah, I know. That's the problem. Hang on. Give me 1 second. I saw
throw some names at you.
Yeah, give me some names, mate. Give me some suggestions.
All
We went
right.
less than 40.
We go less than 40, don't we?
It's got to be less than 40.
There's a few that were good on 40, but you got Rapana up against...
Oh, here we go. We'll go this one out of left field as well. I'm going to go Murata Nakore for Parramatta. Scored 37 last week. They're playing your blokes, Newcastle, so he should be able to score a double because you guys can't defend for shit.
True.
So he'll go all right. And my weird and wacky, I'm going to go everyone in the back five for the Roosters scores a try this week.
All right. That's pretty wacky.
All right. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for the Roosters up against St. George on Anzac Day. Everyone scores a meat pie.
Oh, that's a big call. What are we doing? Are we going dry wheat bix or are we changing?
Mate, I reckon we go dry wheat bix with Tabasco sauce on it.
All right, done.
All right, good. Done. Let's do that. It was not dry wheat bix, but it's close. Now we've got the topic 8. We're running pretty bad on time here tonight, but let's go to the topic 8. New segment, guys. We just wanted to bring this in. We've been looking at the I guess game reviews and things like that, and they go a little bit long each week. We just wanted to bring in some other stuff from SuperCoach and NRL to have a chat about. So the first one I wanted to talk about was the level of competition in SuperCoach this season. Now, I put a post up on our Facebook page today that last year there was only, I think come round 6 last year, I was averaging about 995. I was sitting about 9,000. By the end of the year, I'd cracked the top 1,000 and I was averaging 1,091. But that was the only week that I averaged higher than I am now. Hampton, what do you reckon? Is it tougher is it tougher this season or are other SuperCoach players better? What are your thoughts, mate?
Well, I think, without thinking about it too much, I think injuries play a big part as well. Because what happens is, when guys get injured, there's been, I think this year has been a really good variety of players you could have gone. Squads could have been a fair bit different at times, but there's been quite a few injuries to, expensive guys, and then quite quickly teams start to look pretty similar because people are bringing in all the same guys that are in form. Taumalo gets injured and everyone starts to get on Burgess, or Cook turns out everyone starts to bring in Cook and John Bateman, that sort of thing, and teams start to look very similar quite quickly. I know I've come up in a few head-to-heads of mine where I've got less than half a dozen different, and look at on the weekend as well, like. It was average score maybe 11 or 1,200. I don't think it's getting tougher. I just think teams start to look similar pretty quickly. Whether it's chasing last week's points or whatever, but the guys that are in form stay in form. People bring them in for a reason. You look at guys like Fafita, even Cleary now. They have high ownership and they're still performing, and yeah, it makes it sort of hard to want to go a pod when you got guys that are averaging 80 points that you got to bring in. But I don't know, maybe, it's not like they've changed the points or anything like that to make it, more conducive to high scores or anything like that. Actually reduced the attacking stats with the try contribution this year. Is it more that the brand of footy that's getting played now with the referees potentially being a bit more lenient is more conducive to attacking footy, and there's more tries being scored, and as a result, that flows on to the points in SuperCoach. I've got no idea, to be honest.
Less penalties, more game time, more game flow, more defence to be had, more tackles to be made. So I guess all these little things make, I guess, more points each week. Interesting, mate. It's something I'm going to follow throughout the season, just because. As I say, we always sort of looked at cracking the 1,000 was a good thing to average. And, I mentioned it today. It seems like cracking the 1,000 has become cracking 1,100. If you're not averaging over 1,100, you're not up there.
Yeah, and I think that even early early season, there was still a couple rounds where we didn't crack 1,000, or if you did crack 1,000, you were doing well. So, I wouldn't say 1,100 is the new 1,000, but potentially this year could be a tougher year. I know that not many leagues I'm looking in, there's not many people above the 1,000, but there's some really solid scoring going on. But yeah, interesting. We'll keep an eye on it, Joshy. Good pick up.
Mate, topic number 2. How far behind is too far? Currently, mate, you're 500 points or so behind the leader, and I'm about 700 points behind. Can we catch up? Can we win SuperCoach 2019?
Oh, absolutely, mate. I think with buys coming up, captain choices each week, 500, even 700 points is definitely not unattainable. But I think come that first buy round, depending on what happens after that, you don't want to be too much further than that behind. I think back, the Cody Walker instead of Tedesco cost me 75 points. Burns over Bateman cost me 80 points. There's 150 points there. Woulda, coulda, shoulda. You're still pretty far behind the leader. But I don't think it's unattainable. Once you start hitting around that 8, 9, maybe 1,000 point mark, it's definitely going to get a bit tougher. But those buys are going to be really interesting because they cause a bit of havoc, mate, as you would be aware.
Yeah.
And it only takes having that one player to ton up that week. You go to that pod play like you have in Waka Blake and someone else with low ownership, and you can make up a couple hundred points pretty quickly. What do you reckon?
Mate, look, I think we're probably a little bit too far behind. I think because what will happen is even if we're not too far behind the guy running first, we might be too far behind the guy who's running 50th, and he sort of starts to hit form. So I think that's the hard part is it's not just one bloke you're trying to catch. There's a couple of thousand people in front of you, so that makes it the tough part, I think. Mate, what about pods? Topic number 3, pods. Give us one pod for the next sort of say 6 weeks.
Geez, we haven't rehearsed here. Look, I know he's suspended at the moment, and let me look up his ownership percentage. I've obviously been a big fan of Fisher Harris, but it's not him. Let me just bring him up. Sorry, a bit unprepared. I'd almost say Joseph Paulo as well, but again, I don't know. I'd imagine he'd have pretty low ownership as well. But the guy I'd be leaning towards, and let me just find his name here. He's probably not that pod. Sorry, guys, we've prepared well. Oh, definitely. I think it's Adam Fennell-Blake, mate. I know his minutes aren't big, but he's a big boy. He averages around that 60-minute mark. And he's probably not going to get any more minutes than that, but he's in the front row. He's actually really in form. He's priced at 500k, but he's had a solid start of the season. Hasn't had a score under 60, so he's gone 69, 65, 63, 70. He's probably not going to get too much more than that, but he might be good for a pie every now and then. He's a handful. He's hard to stop. He gets a lot of those post-contact meters, lots of tackle busts. You're looking for a pod. He's the guy. I think ideally you would have started the year with him at 450k. But I'm a big fan of him, big fan of Fisher Harris, big fan of Paulo. All those big boys there having really good seasons. And I think, maybe one of those if I had to go off the top of my head. Yeah?
Mate, I've got to go with Wanga Blake. I spoke about him. He's got to be the one. So I don't really have anyone after that. I actually thought about Josh Dugan now that he's back out on that wing with Bronson and Jerry, if he can find the right sort of combination. I just think he might be a chance, but he's missed the glass. Blokes like him, Adam Reynolds, they're always breaking down. That's the only bad part about them.
I like Wanga Blake because he's a guy that's definitely gone under the radar now. He's a little bit not out of form, but the Panthers haven't clicked. Like you said, I think Maloney and Cleary switched up last week, and there were times that they both played on the same side as well, which is promising to see. So I think, the more that happens, it takes another set of eyes off Wonga Blake, and he's dangerous. He's Latrell Mitchell-esque at times. But what are you calling? What's pod? Is it less than 10% ownership?
Mate, it's usually the definition for me is less than 10%.
So you got someone like Blakey Ferguson, who's currently at 9%, who's awesome as well. But yeah,
exactly right. Look, obviously, Blake Ferguson. We talk about Angus Crichton. He probably hasn't hit where we thought we would. A lot of people talked about waiting that few weeks for him to drop, and he hasn't dropped that massive money, but he just hasn't absolutely collapsed. But he hasn't done any massive scores. So again, he's one that's sitting at about sort of 4% at the moment.
I think one that's going to probably start to be a bit more pressing as well as Big Villa Kick-Out, mate, especially playing the buys. He was quiet last week, but, Penrith go to him a lot, and he's just too big, too strong. It's only a matter of time before he starts crashing over, and he quite easily hits 80 pluses once he starts doing that, mate. Bit more match fitness and plays 12. Might not tell too many people about him from now on.
Mate, topic number 5. How expensive is too expensive? Oh, no, buy planner. I missed this. Topic 4, buy planner. Mate, let's run through these nice and quick because we're almost hitting the hour already. Buy planner, mate. Do we start now?
Absolutely. We're going into round 7 this week. So you got round 7, round 8, round 9, round 10, round 11, round 12. So you got, 6 weeks worth of trades. Round 12, you get 5. Is it 5 you get now?
No,
you get at least 4.
I think it's in the middle of round 12 and round 16, somewhere in there.
You get extras, don't you? But you get four in round 12. So, yeah, you do.
Pretty sure that super round you get 5. Every other round now is still 2.
Oh, shit. I better look up the rules. How good are we going? How good am I going?
Experts,
I'll have to have a look now. But yeah, so I think definitely you have to start having a look now. Every trade now for me, bar Payne Haas, will be buy oriented.
Related. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mate, topic number 5. What do we got? I think it was how expensive is. No, Queensland halves, mate. Look, I'm on fire. Queensland halves. You got DCE. You got Ben Hunt, Michael Morgan. You've got who else? Munster. And outside chance. I mean, Kalen Ponga, obviously. He's probably just going to play number 1. Milford, we talked about how terrible a form he is, but he always seems to come into talks about it. Who are the halves? And if DCE misses out, do you have to have him in the halves for I guess, come round 12?
Well, if he misses out, I think he's must. Well, I can't see him missing out. I think, they're spoiled for choice.
But if he can't miss out, who does miss out? Michael Morgan, I think he's in great form, and I think he's probably in Kevy Walder's eye probably more of the chance than DCE. DCE's had something against him. A lot of people sort of don't like him, that likability factor. So I don't know.
I think I'll go DCE Munster, personally. I just think, currently, based on right now, I think that's what they'll go. And the reason why I say that, and I think Morgan can't miss out, but Morgan has played in the centres already, and I think that might be a way in which they're leaning. With Inglis now not there, potentially they need an option out there in the outside backs. I think Ben Hunt could be a smoky to get a bench spot even, give him a bit of zing. He might come on at dummy half, or if they do get an injury, he can fill in there. Munster's got a bit of durability as well, where they can just sort of throw him wherever they want if they need to. Should they get an injury and they've got Hunt there. I think there might be, 4 halves that end up getting named there. I don't think Milford won't be there on form. I don't expect Norman to get there. I just think he's done his dash since he's left Brisbane. But I'm expecting they'll pick those 4 blokes still somewhere in there. But how could you not? I mean, it's a good problem to have. What do you reckon?
Mate, I think it'll be Morgan and Munster. I think DCE will be on the outer and miss out. It's a big call because, playing the Aussie green and gold there last season, I think he had a couple of games in the maroon as well. So something just always stays in the back of my mind that I don't think Kevin Walters likes him, to be honest. But, yeah, we'll wait and see.
I just think, with Inglis now retiring, Val Holmes no longer here. You've got Gagai in the outside backs. You'll have Oates probably gets a spot. Who fill those other outside back spots for him now?
Well, you got Chambers. Chambers is still effective enough.
True. Yeah, it's true.
I wouldn't have him in the side, but I think he's still sort of earned it.
Yeah, true. I forgot about him.
Yeah, look, it's touch and go. We'll wait and see.
What about nothing? Argument's sake, Chambers gets an injury. Who's next in line for a young outside back for Queensland?
I've got to be honest, I've got no idea.
Neither do I. I think we got most of them.
Yeah.
Copley? No. I've got nothing.
No. Yeah, we'll move on. How expensive is too expensive? Mate, this question comes about from blokes like King Gutho. King Gutho in absolutely amazing form. We talked about him before the season. We both didn't jump on. He would have been one you'd love to get on because he's in the top 5 players in SuperCoach this season. Just keeps performing. Looks like he's having fun. He's leading the Eels team around the park. Absolutely fantastic. Mate, is it too expensive to get on a guy now? And I think back to guys like Gareth Widdop last year when he hit mid 700K, dropped through the floor. Josh Adokar did the same last year. Hit the mid 700s, dropped through the floor. Does Gutho do the same?
Oh man, I look at what happened on the weekend, and he's because you can pick him in that centre wing position. I think he's must have. As a specific question on Gutho, they played the Chooks a few weeks back, and he was still as effective. He looks really good, but yeah, I guess it just depends what you think. Gutho started the season at 450K, and it really stung me to have to think about paying 600K for him. But he keeps producing the goods. Obviously, it's not a problem if you've picked him up at 450, even 500. But I think, if you're spending 600K, that's proper premium price. And when he was goal kicking, maybe. I mean, he keeps producing the goods, and Paradu look really good. I think Gutho looks in career best form. Going back to Gutho. But when you start talking about 600,000, that's definitely premium price. Like that's keeper. You're buying someone for 600K, you're not trading them. So you make that call. Whoever that person is you're bringing in, it's like, are you setting and forgetting them? Because that's the question you should be asking. I don't think you should be bringing in someone that's worth 600 plus, and then you're thinking that you're going to trade them in 4 or 5 weeks or even the next buy, arguably. I think that's not the right way to go about it. I mean, the argument could be made that you could still make a bit of money, but, yeah, it's starting to get really expensive. I know I spent nearly 700K on Cookie. I did spend 700K on Teddy, and the reason why I did that is because I know they're guys you've got to have at the end, and once you got them in, you don't have to worry about it anymore. I don't know. I think there's still plenty of options in the centres there to not have Gutho. Maybe Gutho becomes so owned, as an example, that he ends up being a pod that I don't mind not having him because he sometimes he's not devastating. He's just so involved. He just turns up everywhere and that sort of thing. And some weeks, it might mean he only gets 30 or 40, but there is going to be weeks where because he's so keen around that ball. I mean, he's awesome, but I think Teddy and Ponga at fullback. There's some pod options in the centres that you might not have him, but what do you reckon?
Mate, look, I think, it's just a matter of you can't have everyone still at this stage. We're all still developing our team. I would have loved to have had him at 450K. At 600K, look, I think he's still a genuine buy. I think while the Eels are in the form that they are, even when they're losing, you look at Kalen Ponga over the weekend, his form when they're losing, Gutho's that kind of exciting player. Obviously, he doesn't have as much X factor, but he does have motivation for his team to perform. And that's why I like him, because he's always backing up. He's always there in the plays. Look, the last two topics, a little bit more NRL related than SuperCoach. Phil Gould, mate, gone from the Penny Panthers. Talk about him and his position basically being null and void, just not effective whatsoever. A little bit of whisper around him going to Cronulla.
Yeah, well, I only heard today, actually, that he's on the... Apparently, they've decided to part ways, which is pretty big news. I think around 6, after he was, I think, one of the big reasons they ended up sacking Griffo last year. I heard something about, I think it was, whoever it is, the CEO of Penrith or whatever his name is it Gardner or something like that? I can't recall his name. Has said that, the coach needs to be able to have full ownership of the team without, anyone intervening there. And I think it's got something to do with Phil Gould trying to be over-involved. It was something to that effect.
On Monday Night Footy Show a week or two ago that Gould said that he had a handshake agreement with Wayne Bennett. And then there were some other people on the board who actually went around him and took on Ivan Cleary. So a little bit of confusion there. And that obviously didn't happen with Bennett, and him and Seabold ended up doing the swap. But, so according to Gus, that was originally the idea. So interesting one there. Mate, number 8, Broncos in the bin. Look, is it too early in the season to say they can't make the 8?
Oh, I don't think so. I think if you think, what are we, round 7 this week?
We're around 7 this week.
So you've got 19 rounds of footy left? Is that right? Something like that. Of which one's a bye. Now 30 points generally. 30 points doesn't necessarily make the 8, but 30 points is pretty much what you have to get. So if you're thinking they're currently on 2 points, they'll get 2 points for a bye, which everyone will get anyway. So they're on 4 points. If you've got 18 games of footy left to play, and they've got to find at least 26 points, which is 13 of those 13 wins. They've got to win 13 of the next 18 to give themselves a chance. It's a big ask. They'll, probably be less affected by Origin than they are usually. But there's not a lot of room for mucking around there. And the same thing goes for Newcastle. I just think it's too much to do, and they're not showing enough. Brisbane might be a little bit different. They are closer. They lost to St. George and Golden Point. They were closer against Canberra, whilst I think Canberra deserved the win. It wasn't the prettiest footy, but Canberra deserved it. Even Melbourne got away on them early, but they sort of kept them low. I don't think they're too far away, but they can't really afford to drop anymore, and it has to start with Cronulla this weekend, mate.
Fair call, mate. Fair call. Into the BJ GameDay League, mate. And as you can see there, mate, you've picked up the silver medal this week. Unfortunately, the bloke who were playing in head-to-head picked up the gold. Hell's Grannies. 12.67 for Wayno, 12.60 for yourself. And, mate, what you think is the team in the league, and not just because of the name, but, mate, you reckon he's got a few sneaky pods, and he's actually the lead overall. Charles with the Bunning Snags.
Well, at first it was just a novelty. I liked the name. Charles, whoever you are, mate, top name. Charlie, I don't know what we want to call him, but the Bunning Snags. Who doesn't like a Bunning Snag?
Charles.
So top name.
A bit more formal.
Yeah, Charles as well. But yeah, having a look at his team, I think we had that bet that week that if I lost to the Snags, I had to go eat 5 Bunning Snags, which I ended up just winning. But looking at his team now, he's got all the guys that I would like to have had. He's got Vaughan, he's got Latrell, he's got Cam Smith. I can't remember who else off the top of my head, but I like the side. He's got a pretty similar nucleus to the team that I've got. But I think he's looking good. And as you said, he's now overall leader, so look out. And obviously shout out to Hell's Grannies. Our mate Wayno was there from season 1 last season, and form is temporary, class is permanent, as I say, and he's not too far behind the pack now, old Wayno.
That's exactly right. Over the overall leaderboard, as you can see there, Charles, Bunning Snags, Stevie Woods has jumped over Rangers de Janeiro with double Denman, but unfortunately he stayed behind the Bunning Snags. So still in second place there for double Denman, and Blake down to third with Rangers de Janeiro. But as you can see there, all the guys only a few points apart, and they're all well inside the top 2,000 runners at the moment. So pretty good there from the league. I think at the moment the league as well, we're ranked around about, I think about 1,800 or so. A little bit disappointing this. We've got a couple. We've got Brendan's Bashers, who I don't think this bloke even plays, but he's sort of averaging around the 800, which has brought the league down a bit. I think if we had another guy in there averaging around that 1,050 to 1,100, would be a massive difference up inside that top 100 or 200.
Oh, absolutely. I think the Bashers is what's bringing us down. And apart from, dare I say, the Tunnel Snakes, everyone's averaging 1,000 a week. So it's actually a heavy. It's a heavy league. Top six. It's 991 for the Bogan, mate. It's definitely not four digits. And the top six guys in the league averaging 1,100, and there's a few, the next half a dozen that aren't too far off that again. Like, it's heavy. It's really disappointing to have the Bashers in there because this league could be right up there, I reckon. Definitely.
Mate, head-to-heads, obviously with your Rangers de Janeiro, he's still on top in the head-to-head, 4-0 there, as you can see. Bunning Snags moved to 3-1, and Trent with What's a Pod. He's going quite well as well with 3-1.
Yeah, he's a mate of mine I went to school with, so I know old Trent. He's a SuperCoach. He gets into his SuperCoach every year. He knows what he's doing, so he knows what a pod is. Don't you worry about that. Obviously, Big Teddy took on Checkmate over the weekend. It was a 50-point difference there. I think that was a close one going in the last game. So unlucky Teddy there to get his first loss of the season. We had Brendo defeat Gangsters Gaggers by 40-odd. Rio de Janeiro put a pasting on the Bashers to keep his unbeaten streak continuing. Peter Kevin, top bottom, got done by 4 points to Stevie Woods and double Denman. Dr. Kando got rolled by What's a Pod by 100-odd. Snags have bounced the Snakes there. The Tunnel Snakes have not ruled on this occasion. Done by, just under 200 there. The fucking Cowboys, Marky, with us from round ones, got over the threat there. And Joshy's knocked over Leanne. I think going into that last game, Joshy was struggling. He needed a bit of help there, and he's ended up just getting over Leanne there by just over 20 points. So unlucky, Leanne. Unfortunately, you stay on the donut in the head-to-head so far. Marty, one of our followers from season 1 last season, got up over the Ginger, just 1165 to 1141, and obviously, game of the round would have definitely had to be myself taking on old Wayno and top score versus second top score. I thought I was home, but Wayno's produced the goods with a 1267 to get me by 7 points. Bloody head-to-head. Moving on to round 7 fixtures. And we got Gangster Gaggers taking on the unbeaten Rangers de Janeiro. So someone looking to, ruin that perfection that's going on there with the Rangers. I think someone's got to take the first loss. We can't have this going on for too much longer. Peter Kevin top bottom taking on Brendo. What I am noticing here is there's a lot of 1,200 projections, which is, not unusual, but there's a lot of them. There's not many teams that don't have 1,200 as a projection. So, I don't really know. That's a reflection of whether teams are similar or there's a lot of guys in form. But Joshy, I think it might be that teams could be starting to look a little bit similar at times, and maybe captain choice is the only difference.
Mate, I think that's definitely it. We've got a lot of guys who've got the same core. You talked about the nucleus of the team of yours, compared to the Bunning Snags, and I think we're all sort of similar. We've probably got around that 8 to 10 players all the same, and then we've got maybe that sort of 7 to 8 kind of players that are maybe pods are a little bit different, but then the bloke next to you's got those as well and different other players.
I just think you think of guys like Nakora, Chance, Nickel-Klokstad, Bateman, Feeder when there wasn't much in the front row, Burgess when he started in a good form, Cookie, was must-have, Teddy.
We've all got these guys.
That's right.
But they keep performing. They keep performing well. There's been no reason to get rid of John Bateman. There's been no reason to get rid of Brent Nakora. These guys are actually averaging what top players in SuperCoach do, around that sort of 70 to 75. You looked at last year, you maybe had a handful of guys that average over 70. And these guys are the sort of cheapies to start the season. So, yeah, that's where the big scores are coming from.
Yeah, and I think, like I said, I think Nakora will go down as one of the best cheapies ever. He's turned out he'll be a keeper, pending what happens with Wade Graham when he returns. But he's been unbelievable. Needs to work on his interviewing skills, though. I saw him get interviewed after the game last week, and he had no idea.
He belongs on BJ Game Day then, that's for sure.
100%, get him on. Big Teddy will get another win this week, taking on the Bashers. The Bashers won't win a game all season unless he rolls.
Speaking about Big Ted, we just need to give a shout out. Bit of bad news for Big Ted over the weekend. His brother who lived here in Australia down Newcastle way actually passed away in a beach accident. So Big Ted will find himself in Australia this week. So all our best wishes go out to Big Ted and his family. And obviously, hopefully, things are there in spirit with you, mate. So hopefully it all goes well.
Yeah, shout out Big Ted. Sorry to hear, mate. Condolences to you and your family. We'll dedicate this week's BJ on Game Day round to you and your family, mate. Shocking news. So hopefully, you can towel up the Bashers. That one there. Dr. Kando taking on the Stevie Woods there. That should be a close one. Both got the close projections. The Snags taking on Checkmate. This could be match of the round. Snags probably, going to be tough to beat. I think they got some good, like I said, some good pods. And Checkmate knows what he's doing. Almana there. So I'm expecting him to go close as well, as I've said all season. The Threat taking on What's a Pod. What's a Pod looking good at 3-1. The Threat needs to get a win before he starts letting that record go, mate. As to you, I think this could actually be match of the round. We got the Tunnel Snakes taking on the Psycho Circus. Now, boys, there's got to be something doing here.
It's got to be. It's got to be.
If you lose,
come on live with us, mate. Come on, buddy. Come on live with us. Look, I'm prepared. I'm prepared to give you 3-1. All right? I'm prepared to give you 3-1. So whatever happens, if you lose, you got to do it once. If I lose, I've got to do it 3 times. I'll give you 3-1. So what are we doing?
Haven't I suffered enough?
Mate, let's get the Twitter feed going. Let's get the votes going. Let's get the comments going. People, we'll put it on Facebook. We'll put it everywhere. The big matchup this week, Tunnel Snakes versus Psycho Circus. We need to find a punishment. We need to find a celebration. We need to find something.
Yeah, we'll have a think about it, but I reckon projections aren't far off. I know the Tunnel Snakes won't be looking forward to this one. They're in a bit of a lull. They need a win. There's nothing like a win to get you back on board. But I'll back him. I'll actually. Sorry.
They needed a better team to get a win.
We'll see what happens. Might have a closer look at his trades this week.
All right. I reckon we've just hit an hour and 15, mate. So have we got anything left?
Oh, look, we'll quickly wrap it up. Marty's taking on fucking Cowboys. A couple of our originals, mate, taking on each other. Hell's Granny's taking on Leanne and myself taking on the Ginger. So that's a head-to-head's done, but I reckon that'll do us, mate. It's been a big, big show. Obviously, Easter last weekend. Hope everyone had a good Easter and all that. Anzac Day this week. So looking forward to a few games of footy on Thursday. Jump on the Facebook page. I'll try to get on Twitter a bit more. I'm absolutely terrible at Twitter. I don't know what's going on when I get 1,000 notifications on there about recommendations and things like that. I feel like I'm an old man on that thing. But
we'll We'd be happy to get 1,000 notifications. Many people watching.
Oh, absolutely. If you haven't subscribed and liked or shared us, please do. I think we're getting towards that 200 subs now, Joshy. We should, by the end of the year, if we can get close to that, mate, it might be nice.
Yeah, it'd be good, mate. That'll be our goal.
But otherwise, I think shout out to Ping Ponger in the background. I can't see the score, but 44 looks promising. Joshy, as always, mate. 44-30. Shout out to the Bogan. Bogan, give him a like.
Cheers, Bogan.
Joshy. Another top week, mate. May the trade gods be kind. We'll do it all again next week.
Cheers, guys.